I'd like to introduce, and you've probably seen these folks on campus. They're two of my former students, and they are from India. I've asked them to come to share a little bit, not only of their culture and a little bit about they themselves being Indian here on Biola's campus, their culture. We're going to plan on being at and enjoying an Indian meal the Wednesday we return from Easter break. It will probably be staggered as I have a class until 12:30. Dr. Longinow will be able to take the first shift or meet with the first shift earlier. I'll take the second shift. So that means we can stay as long as we want, things like that. So that'll all get organized. Don't worry about that. But beforehand, I thought it would be wise to segue from where we've come these last few weeks, talking about racial reconciliation in conjunction with journalism, theology, and also segueing as we move into the potluck as well as the time at the Indian restaurant and as it influences and impacts your final projects. Maureen is going to come and join us, and she's going to be joined by Chris, both of whom are from India. And without stealing any of their thunder, I'd like for you to meet and welcome Maureen and Chris.
Hello, everybody. Joking. I got you. Yeah, I'm Chris, and this is Maureen. And yeah, I grew up most of my life in India. I'm actually an MK, and Maureen is a blood Indian. She's rooted in it. Yeah, I came to Biola a year ago as a freshman, and I'm a communications major. And yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about my experience in transitioning, or just actually let's start with square one, just India. Where is India? And we'll get to transitioning later. You can go on with that.
India is basically right on top of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was a part of India, but you know how we have like all these earthquakes and tsunamis, and so Sri Lanka moved away and became its own separate island, but India is right above Sri Lanka, and it's below China, around there. And we were ruled by Britishers for over 50 years. And so like all of our speaking and English and stuff comes from the Britishers. And we do emphasize a lot on English, and we do speak a lot of English, though India does have over 1,000 languages, because every state, every tribe has got its own language, but we do have a national language, which is Hindi, but everyone from each state knows at least they know a minimum of 2 languages, which is Hindi and a regional language. And I'm from Andhra Pradesh, which is right on top, which actually is the southern part of India. Like the state is in the southern part of India, and we speak Telugu there. So I know Hindi and Telugu, and I've been going to an English school, which was ruled by the Britishers too. And so we have to learn English, and so, yeah.
I also went to a British school most of my life, and yeah, there's a heavy British influence in India, or just like any British colonized country.
Even the churches, like we have really ancient old churches, and they're all built by Britishers.
Yeah. So yeah, most Indians try to, or they want to learn English, because English is how you achieve success in India. It's how you move up in the ladder, and that's how you gain respect. So if you ever go to India, Indians will be running to you and trying to practice their English on you, because they know if they can get some type of accent from you, or any.
Not only that, I think because at least people look different, at least from America. So when you go there, a lot of Indians think, because they've not seen people looking so different from themselves, they think people from America are angels sent by God. So you'll have like so many people just staring at you, probably even walking with you, and just going everywhere you go, and you'll have like thousands and thousands of people just coming to you and welcoming you to go inside their house or their shops and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of intense.
Let's see. I think the best way to describe India or to dive into this is to go straight into maybe a Q&A from our side and then also from your side. Do all of you aware where India is? Okay, that's good. That's okay. You guys know any Indians on campus? You guys, like, what do you guys think of when you think of India? You think of outsourced or like a noob from, I don't even know what his name is, but from The Simpsons, you know? Hello, welcome, come again, you know, the stereotype. What do you guys think of when you think of an Indian?
I think of hardworking. My family's kind of taken in a guy from India who just graduated from USC, and so he's like part of our family. And just from what he's told us about his culture and his family, it's very hardworking. So that's something.
Yeah. Transitioning. Let's go into transition.
Actually, Indians are very hardworking. Not only because, I think what differentiates India, especially from America, is we believe that we're not very. We work as a community. We more focus on we live in a society, and so we're responsible to the whole society. Unlike how it is in America, I'm assuming that, or what I've learned from, is that you focus more on me, myself, and I. But in India, it's more about you're responsible. You have a huge responsibility to your family. That's why you have people, even after 18 years old, you still are living with your parents, and you still are not dependent on them. But we believe that you are still children are supposed to serve their parents. Because they've been taking care of them all their lives. And so even after a person is married, sometimes they still stay with their parents, not because they're living, or the parents are providing for them, but it's because they want to provide for their parents. So it's like, so we live in a society-based culture, and everyone knows everyone in the society. So it's not like, so when you go to a church or when you go to a party, you always know a lot of people. And so even when you introduce yourself to somebody, I say, I'm Maureen, and I am so-and-so's daughter. So it's not like, so I'm known as this person's daughter. It's not that I have an own individual identity, but I am this person's daughter. So I think that's what differentiates us a lot from other cultures. And even like when I go back home now, which I will be, like I'm graduating this semester, so I'll be going back home to India. I've been here only for 2 years, and I've never studied abroad ever. This is like the first time I'm here, like I'm like, oh. So I'll be going back home, and I'll be living there. But even after I go back home, like I don't live an independent life. We have rules in the house, and if I have to step out of the house after 5 in the evening, I have to tell my parents, and my mom and dad have to say a yes to me, and it's only then I can go out. Or even if I go in the morning, like I have to call them and tell them, I'm going with so-and-so, and this is my friend, I'm hanging out with them, is that okay? And so they're like, yeah, sure. Or no, you can't, you have to stay at home and take care of something else. And so it's like, we can't say no to parents. So it's like, yeah.
Do you think that that's going to be hard for you to go back and have to live that life, or just because you've been so independent for these past 2 years here?
Personally, me, I think because I'm born in a Christian family, I do have and my parents are pretty understanding, so I know that my parents sometimes when they take a decision for me, like it will be difficult for me to like say yes to it, but I know that I'll listen. I will be listening to them because I do want to make them happy, but it's not going to be very difficult for me because I've been here only for 3 years, and that, I mean, I've been growing in India for like the rest of my life there, so it's not going to be that bad. But I do understand that some children, apart from my family, they're not born in Christian families, so some parents can be really, really demanding, and it's funny because in our country, because there's so much of responsibility on your shoulder, both financially and like so many responsibilities on you, our suicide rates are really high because they don't want to disappoint anybody in the family or in the society. Because I think that's why also divorce rates are very low in our country, because divorce is not something that's really accepted in our culture. And so if someone does have a divorce, it's like the society's going to look down on you. It's going to be like, your mom and dad didn't bring you up the right way. So instead of that, they just want to kill themselves. Which is, I mean, it's not like that all the time. But sometimes, yes, when you know you're really stuck and you can't do anything about it, yes, some people do find it difficult. But for me, it's not going to be that bad because I know my parents are understanding, and many times they let me do what I want to do. But sometimes when they don't, it's like I know that I can't do anything about it, but it's okay. So
I think another reason, back getting on to the topic of suicide, we had in marriage, we had some friends. Well, one of our friends, she got married recently, and it was arranged marriage. Like most Indian marriages are arranged. You can see, like on the Sunday morning, they have the matrimonial times, and it has a list of people's names and their status, because there's Dalits, Brahmins, and there's different caste systems. And so they go through that and they pick, you know, who matches with who. And but anyways, our friend, she got into an arranged marriage, and she was very hesitant about it because she didn't like the guy and she didn't like the family. But to honor her parents, she said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And what ended up happening was she hated it because her mother-in-law wouldn't let her come out of her bedroom, and she just had to stay in her bedroom all day and wasn't allowed to come out. I can't remember why it was, but it's just once you're under the new rules of your mother-in-law and parents, because once you move out of your family, once you get married, you move out of your family's house and move into the new family's house, and they make all the rules. And you must follow them. But anyways, what ended up happening was she didn't give enough dowry. Her parents, like, when you get married, the girl gives a dowry to the son's family, and she didn't give enough dowry, enough money, and because of that, the mother-in-law had an accident in the kitchen, causing our friend to get a third-degree burn on her arm. And that's a very common incident that happens to lots of women in India because families aren't happy with the dowry or the amount of dowry. Yeah. So, let's go talk about marriage a little bit.
Yeah, but I would say that that's not the case with yes, that does happen, but that's not like how it is in every case. Like for me personally, I think arranged marriages are good because I feel like me even coming to Biola was not my decision. It was like my parents. Probably because like I'm more like, yeah, mom and dad, you choose for me, like whatever. But I feel like parents know better for their children, and so I just feel like they wouldn't take the wrong decision for your children. And so even if it is arranged marriages, like yeah, before it was like yeah, the guy and girl can't see each other and they get to know each other only after marriage. But now I think a system is changing where parents do say, hey, yeah, there is a guy, and first get to like talk to him a little and like get to know him probably like for a few weeks, and then think about it and stuff. But yes, a lot of people do. There have been a lot of cases where arranged marriages have been really successful, I would say, and that's why I think even our divorce rates are not as high. And because I think we really live out the system where marriage is not just bringing two people together, but like two families together. And because we live in like a society-based culture, so we know that this person's family has a good background and stuff like that. And so we really know in what way they're brought up. So I think arranged marriages are good too.
Good and bad.
Yeah, but Chris was just mentioning about caste system. I'll just elaborate a little about caste system. That does happen in India a lot. It started really, really bad, like ancient times. And basically what they believe is it's a Hindu culture thing where they say that they have many gods. So they have a God who created the earth. They have a God who gives money, a God who helps you reproduce, a God who helps in marriage. So it's like for every incident they have a God. And so the creator God, who's Brahma, he when he created men, or human beings, he created some from his head, some from his hand, some from his body, and some from his feet, and some from the sand or the dirt. So people who were made from his head are the Brahmins, or the upper class people. And people from whom he made from his hands are the people who do all the work, like the merchants and stuff like that. So they're like below the Brahmins. And people whom he made from his body are the people who serve the merchants and the higher class people. And the people whom he made from his feet are the people who serve the higher caste too. But the people whom he made from the dust or the dirt are untouchables. No one can touch them because they are full of sin and they don't deserve to live. So it's like, this usually happens a lot in the villages. It does still happen in cities, where that's why when you're looking for marriage, like people want to see that you belong to the same caste, and they want to have you marry a person who's from the same caste. But untouchables are really treated bad, and
You can, just like in America, how you guys have people's last name is Smith, or I don't know, just a common name, right? In India, you can tell what caste people are by their last name. And so people will treat you very differently. Like, once they find out what your last name is, immediately, you'll be put into the caste system of where you should be, how you should be treated.
yeah.
So-
But if you're a guest, we also believe that even if you come to India, we believe that we have had a lot of Bible students come home, and we believe that guests are angels sent by God. So if you happen to go to India, don't be surprised. People will feed you they'll feed you even if you say no. So it's like, you'll just be like, oh, get more food. And even if you say, no, I'm full, it's like, no, you have to eat. And we believe in sacrificing everything for our guests. So even if you come home and we don't have enough rooms to have you sleep on the bed, we prefer to sleep on the ground and have you guys sleep on the bed. So it's like we really treat you like gods. So that's what our culture does. So it's like we do like really share that love and that hospitality.
And also, Indians tend to be very, very, very accommodating. And you mind if I use an example from yesterday?
Okay.
Okay, so yesterday we came to meet Professor Jung to talk about what we're going to talk about today. And as we were leaving, Maureen's like, Chris, I have something to do tomorrow at that same time. I can't do it. I can't speak. And I was like, so just go tell her. And she's like, no, I can't do it. I feel bad. I can't do it. And I'm like, well, you need to communicate it to her, or else it's going to be in a mess, And that's very Indian. It's very like, I need to accommodate. I need to think about others, not about me. I need to just really help everyone else.
Yeah.
And embracing like the American, I don't want to make Americans look bad, but like embracing the American mentality of me, when I first came here was so difficult for me to grasp.
Yeah, like even when I was on campus and I felt sick many times. And in India, when I was sick, like I would have friends and family and everyone like leave their work and come and just sit with me and be like, see that I'm fine and get food. And here I was sick and I was like, I don't want to come to Biola, frankly. I don't want to come to Biola because I'm more of a very dependent, I'm a very dependent person and I love talking to people and I love making friends. And so it was really difficult for me to be like, I don't want to leave all my friends and come here. And I have a brother who's like 4 years old, who was 1 then, and I love children, so I was like, I don't want to leave my brother. But mom and dad were like, no, it'll be a good experience, just go and see how it is. And so I was here, and I was like, and I didn't have a roommate, and I was like super sick, and I was like, I don't know what to do, like, There's no one to do anything for me. So, and even when I used to walk on campus, I also remember in the caf I was sitting and I was eating food, and I had my sister with me who graduated from Biola, but I was eating food, and I would find like random students like sitting and eating by themselves. And in India, we move as a group. We don't see that anyone's sitting by themselves. So I was like, Shiva, I'm gonna call that person and have them sit with us. And she was like, shut up. Probably she wants to sit by herself and eat. Don't do that. They'll think you're weird. I was like, okay. So it was like really difficult for me because I'm more like of an includer. And basically even Indian culture, it's like we don't let anyone sit by themselves or like even walk on campus by themselves. It was just like really different, yeah.
Do you guys have any questions before we keep talking?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like I know, like you're not, like where are you going? What's your origin? Like,
I'm American Chinese, but born, spent all my life in India.
so do your parents like hold on to that same, like, you know how she was saying like she's very dependent on her parents? Is that different for you since you're not like Indian,
yeah.
even though you grew up there?
I would say if you spend a good amount of time in any country, you adopt their culture. And my parents have definitely adopted the Indian culture. My dad, I was talking to him a few weeks ago, and he's actually, my mom is actually scouting a girl for me. She's like, Chris, I have a girl in mind for you. Would you get a hold of her? And I'm like, ah. Anyways, you know, my dad, he's like, Chris, if you start dating a girl at Biola, make sure that she's gonna be okay with us moving in with you when you're married. And so it's very like, yeah, it's Indian. I would say even Asian. Like, it's very, it's a lot about respecting your parents, giving back what they gave to you. I guess. I don't know.
I think one good way is like the way we, good way to or an example for that is when we eat food at home, even up to now, like when I go back home and I'm serving, when we're eating food, we always serve our parents first and see that they eat first. And sometimes when they say, usually dad and mom are like, oh yeah, just join us and eat with us. But even when we have a party, it's always like we serve the older people in the family and have them eat and see that they're fine. And even in that process, there's not enough food for us. It's okay because they're older people. They need to go first. So it's more of that. But yes, men dominate in a big way. Even the wife, like they serve the men in the house first, and if they don't have children, and see that the man is first satisfied because he works harder and he is supposed to feed the family, and the wife is to take care of the family in other ways, like taking care of the children and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's.
Are you guys gonna have arranged marriages?
I was telling my mom, I'm really close to my parents, and I was like, Mom, if you see a girl that you think fits me, you know, go ahead, give me her number. You know, like, I trust my mom's judgment. My mom knows me really well. But I don't know if like arrange, like, oh, let's combine two families together and let's have a whole ceremony. Like, I don't know about that, but I'm comfortable with my parents. I'm comfortable with my parents' judgment. Let's just say that. But I don't know about like the whole full-on, let's have an arranged marriage. I don't know.
I think me too. Like, well, I'm not thinking about it, so it's like, because I don't know, like I have a lot on my plate already, and I want to go back home and get involved in like a missions organization. So it's like I don't know. I feel like I want to focus on that first. But yes, if I do, like Chris said, I do have faith in my parents' decision. So I would just, if they think it's fine, and even if I like somebody, and if I would first go approach my parents and say, hey, this is what I think it is, and if they say no, I don't think that's right, because I mean they know better for me, and they can see things from a different angle, and they have a lot more experience than I do, and so if they say no, probably not, because they wouldn't want me not to be happy. So.
Do you guys go to your parents for advice? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, so it's not that different.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean.
I was just thinking about how, like, some of the things you've addressed with Indian culture, where your strengths are, is hospitality and really having a mindset of family that maybe we lack here. Generally, in American culture, there's a lot of, like, our weakness is probably that our individualism makes us isolated, and that we don't experience the joy of family and community maybe in the way that Indians do. But I'm curious, being from India, what are the weaknesses you see within Indian culture that make people like susceptible to the enemy, or like that kind of hold them back in a way?
Weaknesses. Oh man. You can start off that, Maureen.
Can you just elaborate more on like what do you mean by weaknesses? Like how you guys?
But like every quality that a culture has,
Yeah.
there's kind of a balance that's
Yeah.
needed. So
Yeah.
I don't
Some of
know.
the negative stuff.
Yeah, are there things that Indians really struggle with as a
Yeah.
culture?
I think one big thing is caste system, where as we explained a lot about it, like I think caste system is like plays a big role. But I think personally what I feel is like even the education system sometimes it's really good. It's really good. I like it. But then parents like in India, if I go tell my mom and dad even now, Mom and Dad, I really love music and I really want to be a musician, they'll be like, you can't. You have to be either a doctor or an engineer.
Yeah.
Or something like
something that has a very prestigious, high-paying
because
job.
the society has to look at you that, oh, you're well educated and you have enough money to feed not only your family but even your extended family, I guess. So I think they don't really like have you discover your own talent, like how people here like do that, which I feel is like you're limiting resources, because some people are just not interested in doing engineering or being a doctor, but they still have to because parents are like, those are your two options and you have no other choice. So I think that's also one really nice. I think that's also one reason why we have high suicide rates, because our education system is very different, and when you don't do well in your exams, parents just are like, I'm spending so much money, and like, what do you do with all of it? So it's like a lot of students like want to kill themselves because they just feel they're useless and they can't do anything. So I think that's a very big negative thing about our culture.
There's a very, very unhealthy obsession with education in India, because it's way overboard.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a downer.
Yeah.
I never liked my Indian teacher. So they were
So maybe like
very
our
nice.
kind of like we have an unhealthy obsession with weed or with whatever it is that we perceive can make us successful in the eyes of other people.
Mhm.
That can kind of destroy us.
Are you going to be a doctor or an engineer?
No, I'm a computer science major, so my parents are pretty happy about that. No, not only that, because, well, I personally, I love basketball, and I love, like, sports. Yay, I know. And I go for every game, so, but I wanted to be a player, or a tennis player, but Mom and Dad felt like, no, that's not a good enough. But I do like science and math, so it was just like, okay, never mind, but yeah. But our system is really different. One thing I would say, in terms of the student and professor relationship, we're not as close as how it is here. Like here, you can just go tell a professor, I don't still get it, or even share your heart to professors here, but you can't do that in India. Well, you can to some professors, but it was really, okay, I'll share one really funny incident. When I came here to Biola, and my first class, I don't know if Professor Jung remembers it, but it was my freshman year. The first time she entered the class, in India, all of us stand up and greet our teacher. So I just stood up, but no one else did it, so I sat back again. But we always stand up and greet our professors, or even if we see them walking around campus anywhere, we have to make it a point to go and say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And even when the professors stand up, even when we're at the table or if they're talking, we have to stand up. We can't be sitting. Even if I'm sitting here and writing down something, if a professor enters in, I have to stand up and talk to that professor. And sometimes I do it now sometimes I do it, and this is like, no, it's okay, you can just sit. You had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, what has been your experiences with the Untouchables?
With what? Sorry.
Untouchables.
Oh. Okay. I personally, like, I haven't really experienced much of that area of like of my culture, but up to a certain limit, I do see like a lot of untouchables in my city, and sometimes I feel like how it's said in the Bible that some people choose that life for themselves because they're lazy. And I feel like a lot of people, they're just too lazy to better their life situation and or do something to help or to earn enough money to live a better life. And so when they do come and ask for money or and stuff like that, sometimes even my mom, like even at church when I go, there are a lot of people just sitting on the road and just like asking for money. But sometimes we do provide for them, but sometimes we feel like they're just like being lazy and not working hard enough because they do have the resources, but they're just too lazy. But sometimes in the villages it's a lot different because they're not even allowed to enter the village. And if they're ill and they're sick, they have to die. God has cursed them and they don't deserve to live. So it's like they live and they die by themselves. Like no one bothers about them at all.
So like, what are the resources though, like how you were saying, because a lot of people are born into that kind of lifestyle, a lot of people can't help it.
Yeah.
So,
I think, but still, like, I don't really know, but I know that like they.
There's lots, like the Mother Teresa homes and a bunch of nonprofit organizations. What they do is they take in the untouchables or the rejects of India, and they give them a job. Of some type of craft making. Because a lot of the untouchables, they're untouchable because, in most cases, because they're deformed in some way. Or I don't know what would consider them untouchable, but in most cases, they either have leprosy or they're deformed in some way, and then that's how people they say, no, you're an untouchable because you're this way. So Mother Teresa homes and like a center that I lived near, it was called Divya Jyoti Handicrafts. What they did is they made like bracelets and cards and T-shirts made by these untouchables, and then they would sell them. That's how they'd kind of get them back on their feet. Yes?
Do you feel like once you like go into that lifestyle, like even if they fell into that because they were being lazy or whatever, like once you're there, once you're like considered an untouchable, you can't really get out. Like even if you do go to like the Mother Teresa homes.
No, you can't.
You can't?
It's because that's your family. That's like
That's
a
your
tag
family.
with you. Yeah. You can't.
And well, a lot of people, a lot of South Indians will change their last name to an English name, like George or Thomas, because they want to get rid of that tag or that caste on them. But the problem with that is now everyone knows if you have an English last name, you changed it because you were once this.
I've had a decent amount of experience with Indian culture, just taking a class. I've been to India, to Mumbai, and I think we should go out from there. Mumbai side? I don't know how to say it, but I noticed there's a lot of people there. There's so many people there.
Yeah.
Just everywhere I went, but a lot of them, I would say, just from talking to the people there and meeting, a lot of people are in those lower caste systems,
Yeah.
and so. When you mix that with also, it's a very male-dominated society. When you have people in homes of poverty or they don't have the means, when you're talking about arranged marriages and dowry, it's almost like a burden to have a girl in the family. At least that's what
Yeah.
I was hearing. So I was just wondering if you've seen kind of that culture changing or improving or even getting worse, or like what?
Definitely, it has. Our current president is a girl, is a woman. So it has changed a lot. And I would say because Vijayawada, I'm assuming that's where you went, Vijayawada, Vizag?
Mm-hmm.
Vishakhapatnam.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, because that's still not a grown or developed city. So that's why you would, yes, in the villages and like not developed cities, yes, women are not treated that well. But if you do step out into other places, I'm sure like in Mumbai you didn't see that much of that division between women and men. Probably there is a little, but women are given a lot more opportunities, and yes, it is changing. A lot of, even my mother, she works in like stuff like that. So yes, it has been changing.
I saw like a lot of contrast. Like
Yeah.
I met a woman who, I mean, she seemed, she spoke English really well. And
Yeah.
She dressed like more
Yeah.
like modern. And,
Yeah.
But then you see the total flip side.
Yeah.
A lot of people who.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I just wondering.
Yeah, it has been changing a lot, yes. Women are considered as a curse, especially in the villages, because of the dowry. Dowry is basically like a price that the bride's father has to pay to the groom, because yeah, I'm giving you my daughter and now she's your responsibility, and because you have to feed her and stuff, so I'll give you this much money so that you can take care of her. And because a lot of parents can't afford that much money, because sometimes the groom like demand a lot of money, and so because they can't do that, they rather like kill the girl or consider it as a curse. Or that's also one reason why there's a lot of human trafficking happening in India, and so a lot of girls are just sold, and there's a lot of child labor, just because they just want to get rid of that opportunity of paying the dowry because they can't, and they don't want to feed the girl. But this happens in the villages often, not as often in the cities. But in the villages also, though a family cannot feed children, they still want to give birth to a lot of children, because they consider children not only as a gift of God, but also as means of money, because they can go and, because child labor is pretty common, not as common, but yes, it does still exist in India. So like they consider as children like means of money, where they can go earn money for the family and come back, and so they live on that money. So even though they cannot afford to like feed all the children, they just give birth, and whoever survives, they go and work for the family. So that's one negative thing.
Yes.
I'm curious, this isn't specifically India related, but you're a Chinese guy who basically is from India who's going to school in America. So what's it like having like all those different cultures?
It's very complicated. It's very, very complicated. Darn, that question I always have such a problem answering. It's been a blessing because I've been able to take on a lot of perspectives. It's my dad's Chinese perspective, my mom's Michigan, she's from Michigan, and then growing up with a whole bunch of Indian friends. Yeah, it's still a struggle to be like, do I identify with my dad or my mom or all the Indian culture that I grew up with? And most recently, it's been I held on to my American. I've embraced my American side, I guess, since I've come back to the States. But that took a lot of like transitioning into this culture. When I came freshman year, I was fresh off the boat, and it was a roller coaster for me because I had an American passport, but I acted like an Indian, and so I mean even because I came to the States for 2 years for high school, and I was even more fresh from India. It was my first time coming back to the States for a very, very long time, and so. Like an instance, I don't want to talk too long about myself, but transitioning, one of my friends asked me, "Hey, Chris, do you want to go get some dinner?" And I said, "Yeah, that's great. I would love to dinner. Like community, it's awesome." So I get to his house with my whole family because in India, you don't invite one person.
Yeah.
I knock on his door and my family's all around me and we're like, let's have dinner. And that's when I found out that's not what you do here in America when you invite someone for dinner. So I mean, it's kind of like trial and error. You just kind of learn what works.
I think I also have a funny incident. Like I went with one of my American friends. She invited me over, and so I didn't eat anything, right? So I was like really hungry, and I went there, and then I realized that they don't cook already. Like you have to go help them cook, and after you're done, it's like you do the dishes and stuff. It was like, well, we don't do that in India. Like
Yeah, it's very much service.
yeah, like we like see that you eat first and like do everything for you and don't care about.
Even my grandma, like when I love my grandma, but like when I come straight from India, my grandma was like, "Hey Chris, it's lunchtime." I'm like, "Yeah, great, lunchtime." And I sit at the dinner table, and there's nothing there. There's just I sit there, and my grandma's like, "Chris, what are you doing? Go get your food." And I thought to myself, "Grandma, you are so rude. What's like? You're being so mean to me. What's wrong?" And like, there's this, there's chili on the stove. She's like, "Go put some in." She's like, "Chris, go serve yourself. Get some chili, put it in the bowl, go eat." And I was like, I didn't know how to react to that. I was like, "Where's the whole family? We're gonna sit together, communion. Let's." I don't know. At first, I was like, "Grandma, come on."
I think in India, though, it's like a Hindu country. Like it's a total different section about India. But though it's a Hindu country, we do have a lot of religions. All my life, I've had only Hindu and Muslim friends, and probably one Christian friend who calls herself a Christian, but so I've been like living only with Hindus and Muslims. One thing common in India, it's another negative thing is like there are a lot of like how earthquakes is so common in India. Bomb attacks in California, bomb attacks in India are very common. So it's like you sleep and you wake up in the morning tomorrow and you're like, oh, there were 12 bomb attacks in so-and-so city and about 2,000 people died. And it's just like, oh, okay. So it's like, it's really common in India. So it's like, it's kind of crazy because Christians are not as like into bomb attacks and stuff, but Hindus and Muslims fight a lot. So if a temple is blown up, all the Hindus are attacking the Muslims and saying, you did it. And so if a mosque is blown up, all the Muslims are attacking. And Muslims are really aggressive people. They believe that you can even, like, they believe you can be really aggressive. So they're really aggressive people. And they're really devoted. Sometimes I feel like though we're Christians, their faith, even though it's false, they're so devoted to that faith. Like, they're so devoted. It's ridiculous. And sometimes I just feel like, even though we know that our God is true, it's just so sad that we're not as devoted as they are. And it's kind of crazy. So I feel like personally, like, though I'm learning so much about like Bible and stuff here, I know it's a total different thing to go share it, even with my friend that I've known for like so many years, to just share about the Word of God, because she's not stupid to say, yeah, you're right, because she'll give you 10 reasons why she thinks I'm wrong. So it's so difficult to even share that faith. It's just really difficult. And I think one more thing with friendship, when I came here, someone told me that, oh, she's my really good friend. I've known her for like 1 year. And I was like, it's just a year. I've been like, it was something really different for me, because in India we have like friendships for 14, 15, 16 years straight. So, yeah.
You guys have any more questions?
I'm really close to my family, but like I definitely went through a rebellious stage when I was like 18, 19, whatever. I mean, I know you guys said you're really close with your family, and not even specifically you, but like, do you guys go through rebellious stages, or like, do you notice like a trend in that age when you're like in between like child and adolescence, and you're like kind of like, do kids go through rebellious?
Oh yeah, for sure. All humans do, I think. Yeah, you can't say this culture does and this culture doesn't. I think all cultures do. It's a little bit more discreet for Indians. It's kind of like, I don't know. you ever been say on that? Like, it's very like you hide it. You don't. Where I think in America it's kind of like, here it is. I'm rebellious, you know. In India, it's like
More sacrifice your stuff.
yeah. It's so hard. Do you have anything else to say?
I know. I just feel like I know I go through that too, but I don't know. We just have to suppress all of it, I guess.
Or you have to like hide, like pretend like you're still being.
Well, we don't. Well, some people probably would, but I don't pretend. I don't know, but I find joy in like pleasing my parents. So I'm just like whatever.
You guys have any more questions? Yes, Amy?
So I think we're all going to an Indian restaurant together.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you guys talk about that already? Because I'm curious if you have advice for us about how not to look completely stupid.
Okay, well, you guys.
Don't exaggerate.
I'm not going to do that. You guys don't need to worry about looking stupid because although it's an Indian restaurant, it is in
In America,
in
so
America,
it's like the food here is not even
well,
close to.
even
At least for me, I'm just like.
even if you were to go to India and you went to an Indian restaurant, you wouldn't look stupid because it's it's becoming very westernized.
Yeah.
And so like unless you went to like a village that has never seen a white person, then you want to be like try to be culturally sensitive.
Yeah.
But in most cases, there's going to be a fork and a knife. But culturally, you eat with your right hand. You don't eat with your left hand. This is a dirty hand. And what else? Yeah, I mean, that's eating Indian food 101. Eat with your right hand. And what?
I said wipe with your left.
Yeah. Wipe your with your left. There you go.
My mom always said she grew up in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's basically
yeah,
these fingers are like your fork, and your thumb's like the spoon. So it like pushes the food in your mouth.
yeah, and like even me and my MK friends from India, like it's so funny because when we go to Indian restaurants, we're the ones eating with our hands, and the Indians there are the ones eating with their forks and knives, because they're trying to. Becoming Western is almost like moving up in the ladder. It's very much like even though I went to a British school with a whole bunch of Indians and a lot of international students, but it was looked upon very well to learn English very well, learn German or French or something besides Hindi, because that will move you up in status. That will make you prestigious and successful. And so when I came in 8th grade, I moved to the States for 2 years, and I had this British Indian accent, and I hated it because I knew I had it because everyone else was imitating me.
Which you do now.
Yeah, I imitate Maureen all the time. So for those 2 years, I was trying to catch on to the American accent. I was like, let's embrace this. So when I go back, I'm gonna be the cool American kid with the accent, with the American accent. And I don't know. I wish I didn't do that now, but it's very. I don't want to say oppressed is the right word, but if you don't learn English, you just kind of look down on in India.
Yeah.
So everyone's trying to.
Not well educated.
Yeah, not well educated.
Yeah. But I think some things you would notice if you go to the restaurant is the family would be sitting together talking all the time, and if there's a little kid with the mom's always feeding the kid and not having the kid eat by herself or himself. And then probably the man is talking more than the wife, and
And if you hear lots of burps, that's totally normal.
Yeah.
It's a compliment to your meal.
yeah.
I don't know if you go to this restaurant you're going to, probably not. I don't know. The Indian families I've been around, burping is it's totally cool. It's saying, hey, this is a good meal.
Yeah.
This is how I feel about it. Yeah.
On the topic of food, what are some of the things you guys miss from India, food-wise?
Just the food and some of my friends.
I think I'm
favorite foods, I guess. Like what is from India?
What favorite foods from India? Like I'm sure some of you had that naan bread. It's like this warm, that very nice bread, and there's a curry, chicken curry, or there's a dish called biryani. Those are my favorite dishes. I don't know.
Well, every state eats like different food. Every state dresses differently. They look different. Like the more you come to South India, we're darker, and if you go to the north, they look more Chinese-ish, and they're really fair. So like it's really like diverse. Everything's so drastic.
It's kind of like Northeast India are people that look like me.
Yeah.
North India is like the typical Indian, the stereotype Indian that you see. And South India is very dark
More like me.
Indians. Yeah, dark.
Well, I'm not that dark.
Yeah, you're not too dark. But I mean, like darker Indians.
Yeah,
like
darker.
Sri Lankan looking almost.
Yeah, Sri Lankans are really dark.
And it's funny because I could get away with being an American or a Northeastern Indian. And it's funny, the funny thing is, depending on how I dressed, if I dressed, my Indian way or my Western way, if I was dressed in Indian and I was walking with one of my American friends, and if it was a girl, all the Indian guys, they'd be watching, they'd be like, oh, this is like a big deal, there's two cultures meeting here. And, where was I going with that? I don't even know where I was going. A lot of Indian guys, because we have a lot of European tourists, and so a lot of Indian guys will try to pick up a Western girl because she can take him to far off, away from India, and he's open a restaurant of some sort, and that's happened a lot. I've seen. I don't know what you've seen, but that's what I've seen.
Well, where I was going off with that is that in my state, we're known for biryani, and it's like a different kind of rice, and I think I miss that a lot. Like even when I go to the restaurants here, it's good. It's like a perfect substitute for the food at home, but nothing compared to the food at home. So it's like I think I miss everything, but like I would say biryani is something, especially like the food that my mom makes, So like you can't get that taste anywhere. So it's like I think that's what I miss. Yeah.
So, when Americans get married, a lot of the time, like, you don't, like, go to the parents for advice anymore, or ask them for things, or they don't really have to say in, like, the couple as much. It's, like, very much the couple who's living together. How is it in India? Is that similar, or is it still very much respecting the parents, doing what the parents ask? Like, is there a breaking point with, like, parent-children and, like, listening or asking them things?
I think India is developing really fast, and they even have they have what's it called, eHarmony here, right? They have Shadi.com, which is marriage.com in India, and so couples are meeting online now in India. I don't know, I would say when I say modern Indians, I'm talking about people who are rich or more wealthy and are more Western. They would tend to be more liberal in being able to, hey, let's go date or something. Like all my Indian friends, their parents are all pretty wealthy people, and so dating for them was no problem. But for people in villages or more traditional families, that's a no-no for sure, I would say.
I think with dating is like it's not, even though it is changing, it is becoming more westernized, but still I think dating is not encouraged. Like if a guy and a girl are holding hands and walking on the road, the society doesn't look at them properly. They think that they're really spoiled kids.
But less with dating.
I'm going with that. Yeah, with parents, I would say that yes, the girl, even up to now, I think she doesn't go with her problems to her parents, like her own side parents. She wouldn't do that because presenting her marriage life as not being very successful, and she doesn't want to burden her mom and dad with the troubles that she has. But yes, sometimes they do go seek advice from parents. But I think more from the extended family rather than your own parents. At least from the guy's side, yes, he does go to his parents, because now they consider that the girl, once she's married, she does belong to her family, but more to the other family. So even if she has a problem, she has to go and seek their help. But yeah, she can seek advice. They do often seek advice from parents.
All right. Would you thank Maureen? Need to wait for your class.
Yeah, I'll get going.
Okay, thank you. You have 5 minutes for your time and a takeaway, reflecting on some of the things that Chris and Maureen shared. Again, mindful of where we've come these past few weeks and mindful of where we're heading in the next week or so.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.